Hello everyone and welcome to Arthritis Action's Arthritis Fact Checked Diet Edition. So there's a lot of opinions, lots of information, lots of misinformation and all things in between when it comes to diet and arthritis. So it's a very complex subject.
Absolutely.
So today I thought it would be good if we could go through all the different things and see what, most importantly, the evidence says about it. So I'm Marc Williams, I'm the Services Manager for the charity, and I'm joined today by our registered dietitian, Martin Lau. Hello, Martin.
Hello, Marc. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And you're here, to tell us all about everything you need to know about diet and arthritis.
The extremely complex relationship.
I'm sure you're the man for the job, though. You'll be all right.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we've got a few warm-up questions to get us going first, and then I've prepared 3 rounds of different things for us to go through afterwards.
Oh, the warm-up.
It's good. It's good. You're going to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so what diet advice online worries you the most?
Oh, my pet hate. Do we have until this evening? Because there are plenty of them. I think first and foremost, people dealing with absolutes, and they say that, look, this is it, this is the way, and in the world of nutrition it is not as simple as that. And then the second one will be people promoting the single nutrient as if they are the bee's knees. A lot of the times is not going to be the case. And finally, one of the other things that I do worry most will be people cutting out the entire food group. So, for example, let's say carbohydrate, I will cut it out completely. This is not beneficial at all.
Definitely. So, if someone was to do one thing to improve their diet when they have arthritis, what would that one thing be?
Only one?
Just think of it to get them started. One thing to get them going on their journey towards a better diet.
Right. So are you sort of like, focusing more sort of like the healthy eating side, or with a focus, to arthritis?
Let's do both.
Okay. In health, I would say that people need to have a good variety of foods, because no one food contains all the nutrients that you need. So, having a good variety is going to be important. And in terms of arthritis, I would say that the one nutrient, or I wouldn't even say it is a non-nutrient, by the way, it's going to be really crucial, and people tend to forget about that, is actually fiber. On the whole, as a nation, we're not getting enough fiber. But fiber, something that is often overlooked, is because it is the food for our gut and microbiota. So, a lot of, for example, auto-inflammatory conditions, we can trace it back to a really poor communities of these little guys. So we will need, to make them thrive. And the only thing that is going to, to sustain them is to give them food. And fiber is going to be the nutrient that is going to do that.
Excellent. So we've spoken about something good. Now let's talk about something bad. So
is there such a thing bad in the world of nutrition?
That was basically my question. Is there such a thing as a bad food?
No. Even sugar can be part of a healthy eating regime. Just really looking at, how much that you're having them. But there is something called a bad diet.
Excellent. We'll be covering some of that later.
Yes.
So, next one. Is there such thing as an anti-inflammatory food? So is there really foods that can actually alter the inflammation within your body?
I would extend that to an anti-inflammatory diet pattern. For example, when we're looking at the Mediterranean diet, and time again, it has been found to be anti-inflammatory. In particular, when we look at research into cardiovascular diseases, and that is something that we often promote as healthcare practitioners. Now, individually, just think of strength by numbers. So or also they behave like a symbiotic relationship. So I wouldn't sort of like focus on just one nutrient, for example, omega-3 fatty acids. Look at it as a whole. And after all, we do follow an eating pattern rather than having individual nutrients.
Okay, great. So, last one. Where should people be getting their dietary advice from?
Not Instagram. Well, I think this is something that people tend to receive a lot of information. But I would say that if you want good nutritional advice, I would go for my professional union, the British Dietetic Association. They've got some fantastic fact sheets available for the general public to use. Also, the British Nutrition Foundation is also a great organisation for quality information. And not to mention credible organisations such as Arthritis Action.
Indeed. So just...
Shameless plug, isn't it?
Oh, no, we have to. So you're saying that people should be listening to professionals rather than random things on social media?
Yes. But sometimes I guess that we also got to look at it from the individual side of things, because we have got so much information. We're now living in an information-rich world, and it's trying to sift through all the noise can be extremely difficult. And this is where healthcare professionals come in to help you to identify what is nonsense and what is trustworthy.
Okay, great. So, for our first round of the 3 rounds I've prepared for you, we're going to talk about foods.
Yep.
And, there's lots of thoughts on these, whether they're good, bad, in between. And so we're going to look at, obviously, as I said before, what the evidence says about them. So I'm going to list you a selection of foods and what they claim to do for arthritis. So let's start. So what does the evidence say about turmeric?
Turmeric.
Turmeric, the claim being that it reduces...
Anti-inflammatory, always the panacea at the moment, isn't it? Everywhere. Right, okay, this is a really interesting one because time and time again there are some new papers coming out and saying that, it can, the results or the usage of it has been beneficial. But something that worth noting, that if you are going to supplement with turmeric, it doesn't get absorbed easily. And that's why there are so many different carrying agents to help, like black pepper, or have it with a full-fat milk, just to help it to get into your gut. And then now we've got something like the nanoparticles and things like that, which sounds extremely interesting. The main thing that we got to focus on is the actual compound that is doing the job, which is curcumin. Now, turmeric contains 2 to 5% or even 2 to 8% of curcuminoids, and these are the compound that is actually been seen time and time again in research paper that is showing some sort of effect. So my feeling is, if you are going to just use turmeric on its own, and again, there are quite a few studies. Basically, it quite ambiguous in the end of the day. So I would rather people cook with it rather than using it as a supplement. I think that will be something that worth doing. But whether it is going to translate any of the benefits, I think the jury is still out there.
Okay, excellent. Number 2 then. So what does the evidence say about tart cherries?
Ooh, interesting one. I mean, if you are in the sporting world, it it has got evidence to support, speedy recovery. But in terms of in rheumatology, again, I think I'm going to come back to that word, ambiguous or unclear. There are some studies saying that it's good because ultimately what people are using tart cherry is to lower urate for people with gout. Some studies say that, it is good to use. Some studies say that we're not going to see anything. With tart cherry high in vitamin C content, and some school of thought may say that because they're high in vitamin C, it may help with lowering urate. But again, we don't know for sure.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not
no. Things
like
that
a clear answer for you.
There's not always going to be a simple yes or no for everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the important things we're doing here, is to explain why. And people can use that information to make their own minds up about whether they think it's worth it for them or not.
So a question mark. There's a lot of things got question marks hanging over.
Okay. What does the evidence say about oily fish?
Ooh, this is a good one. Now, oily fish contain, great lean protein, not to mention selenium as well. I mean, selenium is one of the macronutrients that, support heart health. Now, in terms of arthritis, again, this is, quite an interesting one, because a lot of the times we sort of feel that, yes, omega-3s, oily fish, is going to be helpful, because oily fish, part of the Mediterranean style diet, absolutely fantastic. But when we are sort of like looking more into the omega-3 side of things, again, some study was saying that yes, it's absolutely fantastic. In particular, when we look at one of the EULAR's 2021 systemic review, it's just basically saying that no, it is actually not helping that much. But it's sort of like going back to what I have alluded to earlier. We've got to look at the nutrition pattern rather than individual nutrients. So, but more importantly, some of the people that are living with arthritis, they also have other comorbidities as well. In particular, people with RA or rheumatoid arthritis, they stand a high risk of getting cardiovascular diseases. So, and with omega-3 fatty acids, a well-researched in the cardiovascular sphere. So I would say that it is going to be useful to help to protect your cardiovascular system. And then if it can also bring down a little bit of your pain, then it is going to be a bonus.
Excellent. Okay, this one a little bit more complex, as I have to pronounce things.
If you have to do that, I have no idea.
So, what does the evidence say about broccoli, sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, those types of things? Because they contain
sulforaphane.
Oh, you've saved me from saying that.
Yes. Quite a few research back in the 2011-ish, showing positive effect. But then again, it's coming down to the dosage. How much broccoli can you ingest to be able to, have this compound? And some of the more sort of earlier research are looking at animal study. They are fantastic. And, we're sort of like still looking at, see whether there are any sort of decent human trials available. But I would say that, if you eat lots of greens, then you get a thumbs up from me.
What about the evidence for it? Because the claim is that it protects your joint cartilage.
If you are a rat, yes. There's sometimes it's really difficult to translate that into human studies, and at the moment, I'm just going to put my hands up and say that I'm not entirely, sure in terms of whether the human study going to replicate that sort of protection.
Okay.
Watch this space.
Okay, I look forward to it. What does the evidence say about gelatin and collagen?
Oh, collagen is a buzzword at the moment, isn't it?
It is.
It's
Again,
good for your
not
skin.
these are allegedly again are another one that support your cartilage, support your joints, and as you say, skin as well. So it's lots to unpack here.
Another my key word, which is ambiguous.
Yes.
I do apologise for that. And there's so much sort of noise talking about collagen, whether it's protective. Yes, there are some studies, showing there's some positive effect, but there are also some that are saying that not really enough evidence to support that. And ultimately, what we got to look at, collagen, when we ingest it, one of the key amino acid, glycine, we do get that when we have enough protein. So do we actually need to have something sort of like this to specify for joint, or do we have enough protein also going to confer the benefit? And I remember a study. This is not looking at arthritis, but this is looking at how collagen can help to recover soft tissues injuries, and then they really the end point was we're not entirely sure whether it does have any benefit, but if you have enough protein, it does sort of like help with replenishing that.
Okay, so another one to focus perhaps more on your diet than an additional.
Yes, I think initially it was really exciting because we finally can see something that can remodel the cartilage, but I don't know. Again, watch this space.
Okay.
I do apologise for that.
No. So the answers are what they are. Better this way than just to tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah, put it this way: the evidence is not strong enough for me to turn round to recommend that to my patients.
Excellent, good. So, what does the evidence say about cider vinegar? So, there's obviously several claims of this one, like reducing joint inflammation and so on.
Yeah. I'm afraid that is not true.
A conclusive
There really is no evidence to support that. And I also, when you ask about that, it's sort of allow me to remember a horror story where a lady in her 70s thought that she's going to use cider vinegar to help with her joint pain. And little did she know that she had to dilute the product.
Oh dear.
As a result, she lost quite a few of her teeth. So this is coming back to some of the horror stories that I hear either with books, social media, or even newspaper. Some of these things that needed to have somebody to explain it clearly, and certainly with cider vinegar, unfortunately, there is no scientific basis to support its use for joint pain.
Okay. This one's a little bit different. This is one that kind of has more of a bad reputation. So what does the evidence say about nightshade vegetables and citrus fruits?
Right, let's break that down into nightshade and citrus. So for nightshade, what we mean by that is the potato, tomatoes, bell peppers, and aubergines, and they belong to a group called Solanaceae. And in particular, with tomato, it contains something called the solanine, which is a toxin. But over centuries and centuries of cultivation, solanine is absent. It's gone. It's gone. So, and then that particular is sort of like the notion of using or avoiding nightshade vegetable came from a professor over in Florida. He wrote books, about how harmful they are, but unfortunately, the science behind that is somewhat lacking. But saying that, some people do do display an adverse effect with tomatoes. Could be because it does have some vasoamines that could initiate or could promote the release of histamine inside the body, but that's something that is not everyone will have that effect.
Okay.
And I think similarly with citrus or any citrus fruit, they do have this active amine. They can cause havoc in susceptible people, but again, it is not everybody will have that effect. So what my advice is, keeping a food and symptom diary will be really useful, and then it will help you to identify are there any food stuff that causes adverse reaction. And if indeed that is, take it to your healthcare practitioners.
Okay, great. Last one for this round then. What does the evidence say about gin-soaked raisins?
Oh
It's
gosh.
supposed to help movement in the joints, I believe, is what they're
I'm not
the
sure
claim is.
about movement in the joints, because if you are a little bit tipsy, you certainly will feel less pain, and your movement is somewhat going to be a little bit better. I'm afraid that there's no evidence to support that. It sounds absolutely amazing, but no. I mean, it might sort of like leave it for people for their Friday and Saturday night.
Yes, best kept there, I suppose, yeah. They do sound nice, though.
I know.
I've never tried them. I've always heard, like, through...
Shall we do that afterwards?
Yeah, let's try that. We'll investigate this.
Yeah, and then we will tell the audience how we feel afterwards, even though that we don't have joint pain.
We might do by the end, who knows?
When we start falling over.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the second round now.
Okay.
So, same thing again, essentially, except this time we're going to be talking about supplements.
Oh, yes, really interesting area.
So obviously, let's think about, I suppose, what their benefits might be for arthritis. Because I'm sure there'll be some extra bits as well, because, as always, we've shown already by this first round, there's not one answer to a lot of this anyway. So, what are the benefits of taking calcium, vitamin K, and vitamin D for arthritis?
Right, okay. I think we need to look at it from the musculoskeletal side of things, rather than the arthritis side, because both of them, they complement each other in order to preserve bone mineral density, and vitamin K basically help the body to absorb calcium without the calcium being deposited on the arteries, and vitamin D also helps the calcium to get into our system a little bit better. So I would say that from the musculoskeletal standpoint, important to have, because if the bone mineral density start leaking, then osteopenia or osteoporosis will be the result. So I think that will be more of a musculoskeletal side.
Okay, great. What are the benefits of folate for arthritis?
Folate, extremely important if you are taking one of the DMARPs medication, which is methotrexate. They tend to leak a lot more of folate away from the body. So then that's why if you have been prescribed methotrexate, folate always going to be accompany that.
Okay, good stuff. What are the benefits of iron for arthritis?
Hugely important, because people with, especially like inflammatory arthritis, they tend to have a higher risk of iron deficiency, namely because during disease activity, the body uses a little bit more iron. So I would say that you will need to look a little bit more into having a little bit more iron, from food, and possibly have it regular monitored.
Okay. And possibly add that Guinness is not really a nutrient-dense source for iron, in case anyone is still wondering about that.
Friday and Saturday thing.
Yeah, it's delicious, but not for what you think it's for.
No.
Okay, so what are the benefits of taking vitamins A, E, or C for arthritis?
Antioxidant, it should be sort of something that you should obtain it from food. Previously, in terms of looking at antioxidants like that to help with osteoarthritis, has came back as zilch. They're not going to improve pain or any symptoms. So I would say that these are the things that you can quite easily obtain from food. You don't need to use it specifically thinking that it's going to help with your arthritis.
Okay. What are the benefits of taking glucosamine or rosehip for your arthritis?
Yes, these are the extremely popular one. Sunday papers usually, have got little pamphlet and saying that take these, your pain will disappear. I wish that it is going to be as simple as that. And unfortunately, time and time again, when we look at glucosamine, it used to prescribed by doctors, a while back. But as more and more evidence come into light, they are found to be rather ineffective. In terms of rosehip, extremely high content of vitamin C and polyphenols, and again, in the real world of using it to manage arthritis, it's just not really useful. And then one of the things that is quite interesting in terms of supplements, when researchers looking at the efficacy of them, they all tend to be useful in the short term. But when you start going into the medium term and the long term basis, they are not going to be any use at all. And I do believe that placebo effect plays a part in that.
Absolutely. There's one other thing as well, just to close this round out. I think you've told me about this before, and I think it'd be good for everyone else to know this as well. It's about the regulation of the supplement industry.
Yes. Yeah, it's not like medicine where it is tightly regulated. So whatever that you see in the back of the bottle or the packet, I mean, sometimes you're just wondering whether you are actually getting the quantities of it, and chances are, some of them are just out there to get your money with little ingredients.
Excellent. So good to know that. It's yet another tricky subject, basically.
Yeah, I think something that worth remembering is there are some people that turn around and say that, look, I'm using glucosamine and I'm having really good results. Overall it is safe, but bear in mind that it does derive from shellfish. So if you are allergic to seafood, then that is not something that you should try. Give it a go. Maybe for about 6 months, because glucosamine is one of these compounds that, if indeed that is going to have any effect, you will need to take it for a long time to be able to see any effect. So I would say that roughly around 3 to 6 months, and see how it goes. If it made no difference at all, then you know that this is not for you.
Okay, great stuff. So on to the third and final round now.
Ooh, well, we're breezing through this.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the various diets that people use, because there are a lot of different out there. So as a previous, former life, well, still this life, used to be a personal trainer myself, so I have had to discuss this with so many people, and they have been the bane of my existence, essentially, if I'm being honest. I'd love to get your thoughts on it as a dietitian. So, what are your thoughts on these are three? I've lumped these three together because they're essentially the same. So, right. What are your thoughts on keto, carnivore, or paleo diets?
Interesting. Because there are some studies looking at the keto or low-calorie ketogenic diet. And in particular, there's a quite nice little paper comparing low-calorie ketogenic diet and Mediterranean diet. Basically, it does tend to, I think the bottom line really is people or the participant has lost weight. And I think that is one of the biggest thing that people can do if they are carrying more body weight or body fat than they should. Definitely, because it will help to improve the pain and also physical function. And I think by following a low-calorie ketogenic diet, people lost weight and they felt better. Yes, in some ways, some of their inflammatory markers has been reduced. And interestingly, that paper, putting it all down to ketogenic diet. However, I do feel that with Mediterranean diet, it may exert its effect a little bit more slower and sustainable, so you won't see this immediately. But either ketogenic diet or even a diet which is very low in carbohydrate, some of them, certainly in animal studies, have been found to suppress a few key players in our immune system, like nuclear factor kappa B, and also, well, because it's down-regulated, it also sort of shuts down, inflammasomes responsible for hyping up your immune system. I think personally, I have tried using some form of ketogenic diet for people with rheumatoid arthritis with some success. However, this is a big however here, some people were just not getting on with it because you are asking people to have a very low carbohydrate intake. They get cranky and so all the other side effect that comes into it. But I would say that, in terms of, from paper, yes, there's something that worth thinking about, but it is best to be guided by somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Agreed. What about when it comes to something like, say, I lumped the carnivore diet into all that as well, which is very restrictive.
Oh, that is pure meat.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And a lot of heart conditions, I believe. I think a lot of the people who have been big advocates of the carnivore diet all eventually kind of wean themselves off it and start to include fruit and veg into it.
I think interestingly, initially, they will have a slightly low cholesterol level. The true understanding behind that is still, unknown. But in the long term, I don't think that benefit is sustained.
I think sustainability is one of the most important things in your eating regime.
I mean, just like with any sort of dietary regime, in particular, you are looking at a weight loss or even weight management regime. To be able to sustain it, that is the key. And I think when we are looking at losing body fat or body weight, people wanted to look at the quickest route to it. And in a lot of ways, losing body weight is not a sprint, it is more like a marathon. So if you can sustain it for a while, and that is the best nutrition pattern that you can follow.
Excellent. So let's flip this one over now to be on the opposite side of these.
Ooh, I wonder what the next one is.
It's almost like you might know some of these. What are your thoughts on vegetarian and vegan diets?
Fantastic.
I've lumped them together again. But
Fantastic. They are essentially, go side by side with one another. I would say that, it is fantastic in terms of, sustainability, great stuff, good for the planet. And more importantly, there is a new research came from University of Amsterdam. It's called Plants for Joints, and it has been found to be extremely beneficial for RA and osteoarthritis. Yeah, but the downside of that is because it is a vegan or the vegetarian type eating regime, some of the micronutrients like your iron zinc and also B12, it needed to be supplemented.
That is, as a vegetarian myself, so that is something that I do as well.
Yeah, so if you cover those bases, then I think the research is on your side.
Excellent, good. I was hoping you had nice things to say.
I always have nice things to say, apart from a lot of uncertainties.
Yes. What are your thoughts on DASH, which is the dietary approach to hypertension?
Hypertension, yes, then fantastic. It has been found to be useful for people with gout. So I would say that it is a sensible dietary regime to follow. And then it is not something that you need to cut this and ignore that. It is sensible diet, but you need to keep your salt down to about 2 grams per day. So some people might find it a little bit difficult, but with herbs and spices, it can jazz things up. So it is a good sort of dietary regime to follow if you feel that is something that is going to be beneficial to you.
Lovely stuff. What are your thoughts on fasting diets?
Ooh, fasting. Do you know that back in the days when people used to treat rheumatoid arthritis, they fast?
Okay.
And in fact, fasting for 7 days, it does work. It works a treat.
Really?
Yes. However, nobody can sustain without food for a long time. So as soon as you start eating, your symptoms, your disease activity returns. So, in some ways, it is not sustainable. And then back in, I would say about in the 80s, the regime for managing rheumatoid arthritis is to have 7 days fast and then go on to a vegan or vegetarian diet.
Okay.
Yes, but again, that sort of worked quite well. So I think fasting, yes, it can give you momentary or a very transient symptom relief, but it is not sustainable.
What about something like intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, where you only eat during certain periods of the day and have a smaller window?
Yeah, the fasting is sort of like, you're not eating for a certain time frame, and then when you do start eating, which is usually quite a low calorie intake, some people swear by it. Some people find it is not helping them either. So again, is to find out what is work for you.
Definitely, I agree. What are your thoughts on gluten-free diets?
If you have got a medical condition like celiac disease, then there is no two ways about it. That is the dietary treatment. However, if you feel that by cutting out gluten, mainly from what you've seen in the internet, they're just not going to help. But saying that, some people with inflammatory arthritis, they may have a change in their digestive system. So following a gluten-free diet may help them. So again, this is something that they will need to speak to their rheumatology team, and also a dietitian involvement will be really useful in that case. But don't go blindly into it. But there are particular circumstances where a gluten-free diet may be able to help you.
I think it's probably worth mentioning as well, like if you are changing your diet to any one of these diets as well, and you are worried, you're best off talking to your GP, rheumatologist, or dietitian, healthcare professional, especially if you're on medication.
I would say that if you can get your hands on a dietitian, that will be great, because if you ask your rheumatologist or GP, they may sort of like saying that, okay, I'll refer you to a dietitian. Then you may have a slightly longer waiting list to see one.
Okay, good to know. So last one for this. What are your thoughts on the Mediterranean diet?
Ooh, yes. great stuff.
I thought I'd end on a positive.
It is a complete nutrition regime. And there are quite a few studies to support the efficacy of this type of eating pattern. And so all thumbs up from me. However, there are some people that may not find this palatable, namely because you are using a lot of olive oil, and whole grain, nuts and seeds. So, that would be something that needed to, mold to the individual. But as far as evidence goes, yes, there are plenty of evidence to show that it is, supporting the use of this type of diet for all kinds of arthritis.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Martin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. I hope that people will extrapolate some of the useful bits and pieces.
I'm sure they will.
And I'm sure that you will invite me to talk about diet, in the near future.
Oh, I definitely will.
I look forward to that.
Cool. And thank you for everyone watching as well. Please, do check out our website. It's filled with loads of resources, recipes, fact sheets, webinars, podcasts. We've got loads of information about nutrition and diet. And you can find all of that at www.arthritisaction.org.uk. And thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been Arthritis Fact Checked Diet Edition. And I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon.